this morning, President Trump, on the 75th anniversary of the Normandy invasion, honored the soldiers who died as well as the living veterans that participated in that campaign. I want to echo his speech while providing some of the prophetic implications of this event on today's edition of End of the Age. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Robbins with Endtime Ministries. Thank you for joining me on this edition of End of the Age. Now, many of you have heard us teach the 7 trumpets lesson. It's lesson 12 of our 1 through 14 DVD series. And in it, we teach that World War II is mentioned in Bible prophecy. It's the second trumpet, Revelation chapter 8, verse 8. Of the 7 trumpets mentioned in the book of Revelation. But my subject today is interwoven in many other prophecies, the modern nations of the Bible found in Daniel chapter 7, and the dominance of the leopard, Germany, and world government in Revelation chapter 13. So imagine what the world would be like if Hitler had not been defeated. At the time, many thought he was the Antichrist. And I'm going to discuss the Normandy invasion, D-Day. Today's the 75th anniversary of that. And I'm going to talk about some of the soldiers. And I'm going to really echo Donald Trump's speech that he gave and give you more information. And before it's over with, if I have time, we'll talk about some more of the prophetic implications, the healing of the deadly wound and some other things, the Berlin Wall, in the book of Revelation. Before I do, really quick, I've got to announce, because this will be the last day I'll be on the radio this week. I'll be heading down to Gina, Louisiana tomorrow. I'm going to be at a prophecy conference, doing a prophecy conference this Saturday night at Shady Grove United Pentecostal Church, 1384 Highway 460 in Gina, Louisiana, 71342, for Pastor Curtis Thornton. Again, that's Saturday night, 6 p.m., and I'll also be there Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m., and on Saturday night, I'll be teaching From Here to Armageddon. On Sunday morning, I'll be teaching Breaking Prophetic Fulfillments. So if you'd like to join me, Gina, Louisiana, for a very up-to-date and relevant prophecy conference. And then also, really Sunday afternoon, we'll do a Q&A session, a short Q&A session, passing a mic around, and you can ask questions from the audience. So if you want to join me down there in Gina, I look forward to meeting you guys this coming Saturday and Sunday. Now, on today, on the 75th anniversary of the Normandy invasion, I want to commemorate the soldiers who fought and died, as well as the veterans who are still with us that participated in that campaign. I mean, how special are they to you and I? I hope you feel that way. We need to always support our soldiers and really anybody else that fights to protect this American way, the freedoms that we have. Thank you. I want to say a heartfelt thank you. And it's because of you and many others that we enjoy the freedoms that we have today. So I want to say, may God bless you on this day. Thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart. You know, during World War II, the United States fought on 2 fronts: the Pacific Campaign against Japan and across the Atlantic against Germany. A lot of times we'll focus right in on the Japan campaign or right in on the German campaign and the European campaign. But at the end of the day, we were fighting actually almost 2 wars at one time. And history shows that there were 2 major turning points which led to the end of each campaign. On the Pacific front, President Harry Truman ordered the atomic bombs to be dropped on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on August 6th and August 9th, 1945. After that, Japan surrendered just within the matter of days. In the Atlantic campaign, on June the 6th, 1944, 75 years ago today, a combined American-British invasion force landed on the French coast of Normandy, and it established a beachhead. And from there, it began an offensive that led to a German surrender in May of 1945. The Normandy invasion was a major, if not the turning point in the Atlantic campaign of World War II. Well, the Texas Army National Guard shared a clip that I want you to hear, and for those of you watching on social media, that you'll be able to watch here on the screen by me. And this is the first radio broadcast from NBC on D-Day, and it was played at 2:30 a.m. Central Time, June the 6th, 1944.
This is Robert St. John in the NBC newsroom in New York. Ladies and gentlemen, we may be approaching a fateful hour. All night long, bulletins have been pouring in from Berlin claiming that D-Day is here, claiming that the invasion of Western Europe has begun. Let me read you several of the latest bulletins. One says that a report, unconfirmed by Allied sources, of course, says that heavy fighting is taking place between the Germans and invasion forces on the Normandy Peninsula, about 31 miles southwest of Le Havre. Another bulletin, also from Berlin radio and unconfirmed, says that British-American landing operations against the western coast of Europe, from the sea and from the air, are stretching over the entire area between Cherbourg and Le Havre, a distance of about 60 miles. I repeat, there is no confirmation. And here's another bulletin just in. DNB, the German agency, says, this is unconfirmed, that the most important airdromes in the area of the Normandy Peninsula of France have been wiped out. Now, I presume that means wiped out by the Allies. As you may have heard on earlier broadcasts, all 3 German news agencies have begun broadcasting these stories that the invasion is here. But there is no Allied confirmation as yet. The first report came out shortly after midnight, and since then we've been flooded with reports from Berlin. Paris radio, strangely enough, has not confirmed any of these reports. And now we have just been informed that we can expect in a very few seconds, a very important broadcast from the British capital. And so now we take you to London.
Under the command of General Eisenhower, Allied naval forces, supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning on the northern coast of France. This ends the reading of communique number 1 from Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is New York, NBC Newsroom again. Men and women of the United States, this is a momentous hour in world history. This is the invasion of Hitler's Europe, the 0 hour of the Second Front. The men of General Dwight Eisenhower are leaving their landing barges, fighting their way up the beaches into the fortress of Nazi Europe. They are moving in from the sea to attack the enemy under a mammoth cloud of fighter planes, under a ceiling of screaming shells from Allied warships. The first news flashes do not say, but a large proportion of this assault is believed to be in the hands of American men. They are making the attack side by side with the British Tommies who were bombed and blasted out of Europe at Dunkirk. Now, at this hour, they are bombing and blasting their way back again. This is the European front, once again being established in fire and blood, not only by the Americans and British, but by many allies in the fight against Axis aggression.
Now that, folks, was the first broadcast announcing what was going on live at that time, June 6th, 1944. Many people are giving accounts of what happened. The Business Insider account, of course, we know it's been 75 years since D-Day. And here's how the Allies began to reclaim Europe from the Nazis. On June 6, 1944, the Allied forces crossed the English Channel and began to reclaim the European mainland. That day, 75 years ago, marked the turning point on the Western Front and in World War II. So what really happened? Well, it was overcast and foggy on June 6, 1944, when 160,000 troops landed on France's Normandy coastline. Beaches along a 50-mile section of Normandy coast were given 5 names: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. Each was heavily defended by German troops. The clouds kept Allied bombers from targeting the German forces and softening up their defenses. The Germans saw the Allied ships and troops coming from miles away. Once within range, Navy ships shelled German positions, but it wasn't enough to soften the onslaught that awaited the Allied troops. The Germans had been in France for 4 years and had built a system of bunkers along the beachfront. The only way to take out the bunkers was with ground troops. The first wave of assault troops hit the beach at 6:30 a.m. More than 13,000 paratroopers had been dropped behind enemy lines before the sun came up, but they were scattered widely, often missing their target areas and often offering little aid to the men coming ashore. German anti-aircraft guns, like the one that would have been at this position, took a toll on these planes. Lingering clouds also made navigation very difficult. As gliders full of paratroopers flew in overhead, Allied troops continued to hit the beach. Those fortunate enough to make land unhurt often helped pull wounded men ashore with them. It took courage to stop in the middle of blistering machine gun fire and help another soldier, but it happened all day long. In mid-afternoon, the Germans fired 18 torpedoes on an Allied destroyer, breaking it in two. This sent 219 men into the sea. Men kept dragging themselves ashore, patching one another up as they went. And slowly, the sheer number of Allied troops and steady bombardment began to overwhelm the German defenses. As sections of beach were secured, the machinery needed to move deeper into France arrived ashore as well. Allied troops kept moving forward into heavy fire and bunkers filled with Germans. And one by one, the Allies took the bunkers, burying the dead only when the battle was done. A staggering 22,000 Allied troops were killed or wounded that day in the landing alone. Some of you have seen movies like Saving Private Ryan and things like that, and probably those didn't do justice to what really happened and what those men were really feeling there. Some of the dead remained where they fell. Today, there are 9,238 white crosses and 149 stars of David dotting cemeteries throughout the area. A combined 420,000 men from 2 sides were killed or wounded or went missing during the Battle of Normandy. But the invasion succeeded. Less than 1 year later, Berlin fell and Hitler was dead. 6 months after that, Japan surrendered and World War II was over. If not for the Allied troops who invaded Normandy on June 6, 1944, the war might have gone a different direction entirely. Who knows? How would Europe look today if Hitler had not been defeated? This morning, Donald Trump gave a speech at the 75th D-Day anniversary in Normandy. And I want to echo the words of President Trump, which is a fabulous speech, might be one of the best speeches I've ever heard, in commemoration to those who fought. And again, we here at Endtime Ministries want to say thank you today and commemorate you and honor you for fighting to protect our freedoms here in the United States. And I'm going to quote President Trump because it's a very, very good speech, and I want you to hear it. Quoting, "We are gathered here on freedom's altar, on these shores, on these bluffs, on this day, 75 years ago, 10,000 men shed their blood and thousands sacrificed their lives for their brothers, for their countries, and for the survival of liberty. Today, we remember those who fell, and we honor all who fought right here in Normandy. They wouldn't back this ground for civilization. To more than 170 veterans of the Second World War who join us today, they were sitting behind Donald Trump. You are among the very greatest Americans who will ever live. You are the pride of our nation. You are the glory of our, listen at this word, everybody, of our republic. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Here with you, over 60 veterans who landed on D-Day. Our debt to you is everlasting. Today, we express our undying gratitude. When you were young, these men enlisted their lives in a great crusade, one of the greatest of all times. Their mission is the story of an epic battle and a ferocious, eternal struggle between good and evil. On the 6th of June, 1944, they joined a liberation force of awesome power and breathtaking scale. After months of planning, the Allies had chosen this ancient coastline to mount their campaign to vanquish the wicked tyranny of the Nazi Empire from the face of the earth. The battle began in the skies above. In those first tense midnight hours, 1,000 aircraft roared overhead, with 17,000 Allied airborne troops preparing to leap into the dark just beyond these trees. Then came dawn. The enemy who had occupied these heights saw the largest naval armada in the history of the world. Just a few miles offshore were 7,000 vessels bearing 130,000 warriors. They were the citizens of free and independent nations united by their duty to their compatriots and to millions yet unborn. There were the British, whose nobility and fortitude saw them through the worst of Dunkirk. Some of the men who were liberated at Dunkirk fought at Normandy with our soldiers. And the London Blitz. The full violence of Nazi fury was no match for the grandeur of British pride. Thank you. There were the Canadians, whose robust sense of honor and loyalty compelled them to take up arms alongside Britain from the very, very beginning. There were the fighting Poles, the tough Norwegians, and the intrepid Aussies. There were the gallant French commandos, soon to be met by thousands of their brave countrymen, ready to write a new chapter in the long history of French valor. And finally, there were the Americans. They came from the farms of the vast heartland, the streets of the growing cities, in the forges of mighty industrial towns. Before the war, many had never ventured beyond their own community. Now they had come to offer their lives half a world from home. This beach, codenamed Omaha, was defended by the Nazis with monstrous firepower, thousands and thousands of mines and spikes driven into the sands so deeply. It was here that tens of thousands of Americans came. The GIs who boarded the landing craft that morning knew that they carried on their soldiers' shoulders not just the pack of a soldier, but the fate of the world. Colonel George Taylor, whose 16th Infantry Regiment would join in the first wave, he was asked what would happen if the Germans stopped them. Right then and there, cold on the beach, just stop them. What would happen? This American replied, "Why, The 18th Infantry is coming in right behind us. The 26th Infantry will come on too. Then there is the 2nd Infantry Division, already afloat, and the 9th Division, and the 2nd Armored, and the 3rd Armored, and all the rest. Maybe the 16th won't make it, but someone will. One of those men in Taylor's 16th Regiment was Army medic Ray Lambert. Ray was only 23, but he had already earned 3 Purple Hearts and 2 Silver Stars fighting in the North Africa and Sicily, where he and his brother Bill, no longer with us, served side by side. In the early morning hours, the 2 brothers stood together on the deck of the USS Henrico before boarding 2 separate Higgins landing crafts. "If I don't make it," Bill said, please take care of my family." Ray asked his brother to do the same. Of the 31 men on Ray's landing craft, only Ray and 6 others actually made it to the beach. There were only a few of them left. They came to the sector right here below us. Easy Red, it was called. Again and again, Ray ran back into the water. He dragged out one man after another. He was shot through the arm, his leg was ripped open by shrapnel, and his back was broken, and he nearly drowned. He had been on the beach for hours, bleeding, yet trying to save lives. When he finally lost consciousness, he woke up the next day on a cot beside another badly wounded soldier. He looked over and saw his brother Bill. They made it. They had made it. They made it. At 98 years old, Ray is here in the audience behind Donald Trump, is here with us today with his 4th Purple Heart and his 3rd Silver Star. From Omaha, Ray, the free world salutes you. Thank you, Ray. Can you feel the goosebumps as I'm going through this speech, everybody? These were men. These are what brought us freedom. Again, I quote, "Nearly 2 hours in, unrelenting fire from these bluffs kept the Americans pinned down on the sand, now red with our heroes' blood." Then, just a few hundred yards from where I'm standing, a breakthrough came. The battle turned, and with it, history. Down the beach, Captain Joe Dawson, the son of a Texas preacher, led Company G through a minefield to a natural fold in the hillside, still here. Just beyond this path to my right, Captain Dawson snuck beneath an enemy machine gun perch and tossed his grenades. Soon, American troops were charging up Dawson's draw. What a job he did. What bravery he showed. Lieutenant Spaulding and the men from Company E moved on to crush the enemy strong point on the far side of this cemetery and stop the slaughter on the beach below. Countless more Americans poured out across the ground all over the countryside. They joined fellow American warriors from Utah Beach and allies from Juneau, soared in gold, along with the airborne and the French patriots. Private First Class Russell Pickett of the 29th Division's famed 116 Infantry Regiment had been wounded in the first wave that landed on Omaha Beach. At a hospital in England, Private Pickett vowed to return to the battle. He said, "I'm going to return. I am going to return." 6 days after D-Day, he rejoined his company. 2/3 had been killed already. Many had been wounded within just 15 minutes of the invasion. They lost 19 just from the small town of Bedford, Virginia alone. Before long, a grenade left Private Pickett, and he was gravely wounded, so badly wounded. Again, he chose to return. He didn't care. He had to be here. He was then wounded a third time and laid unconscious for 12 days. They thought he was gone. They felt he had no chance. Russell Pickett is the last known survivor of the legendary Company A. And today, believe it or not, he has returned once more to these shores to be with his comrades. And by the 4th week of August at that point, Paris was liberated. Someone who landed here pushed all the way to the center of Germany. Some threw open the gates of Nazi concentration camps to liberate Jews who had suffered the bottomless horrors of the Holocaust. And some warriors fell on other fields of battle, returning to rest on this soil for eternity. Before this place was consecrated to history, the land was owned by a French farmer, a member of the French resistance. These were great people. These were strong and tough people. His terrified wife waited out D-Day in a nearby house, holding tight to their little baby girl. The next day, a soldier appeared. "I'm an American," he said. "I'm here to help." The French woman was overcome with emotion and cried. Days later, she laid flowers on fresh American graves. Today, her granddaughter, Stephanie, serves as a guide at this cemetery. Now, folks, I'm going through the speech of Donald Trump. If you'd like to join me for the second half of this program, go to endtime.com and watch the archive program.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter. This book by Irvin's grandson provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your relationship with God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at Endtime will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Get your book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
If ever people needed to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for Endtime magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will impact your life. Endtime has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that Endtime magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctor's offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 and get your subscription today.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
Well, I want to, because of the people that are just joining us on the last half of the program, I just want to say that I'm commemorating the people, these soldiers that fought and died, and the veterans that we still have with us today. Believe it or not, there are still people alive that fought in the Normandy invasion. And they were there with Donald Trump this morning as he gave a fabulous speech commemorating the soldiers, the ones that gave their lives and the ones that were still alive and with us today. And I'm going through the speech that Donald Trump gave because when I heard it, I thought, man, I've got to go through this because it's not just historic. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to go through it today. We can't pass this over. But it's also prophetic. And I'm going to get into some of the prophetic implications of this before the end of the program. But I wanted to continue on with the speech, and then we'll get into some prophecy after that, because I want you to get the full effect of Donald Trump's speech today. Wow, a well-written speech, and it really commemorates the soldiers, tells the story, and then commemorates and honors the soldiers that participated in that campaign. This week, and I'm quoting, this week, Stephanie, who was the granddaughter of the people that owned the farm, you remember, Stephanie led her 92-year-old Marion Wynn of California to see the grave of her brother Don for the first time. Marion and Stephanie are both with us today at the speech of Donald Trump. And we thank you for keeping alive the memories of our precious heroes. Thank you so much. 9,388 young Americans rest beneath white crosses and stars of David laid on these beautiful grounds. You can go see pictures of this. It's all over the internet, of Donald Trump and Melania and Emmanuel Macron and his wife walking down through there. And Donald Trump says each one has been adopted by a French family that thinks of him as their own. They come from all over France to look after our boys. They kneel and they cry. They pray. They place flowers, and they never forget. Today, America embraces the French people and thanks you for honoring our beloved dead. Thank you so much. To all of our friends and partners, our cherished alliances was forged in the heat of battle, tested in the trials of war, and proven in the blessings of peace. Our bond is unbreakable. Now, I want to mention right here that when he says our bond is unbreakable, a lot of people I've seen on the internet have scrutinized that and said, well, I mean, just right there, that proves that Trump, believes in internationalism, or that proves that we should be an internationalistic type, believing more towards in a world government, not necessarily nationalism. That's not what he's saying. We do have bonds with other nations, but we still have the United States of America will come to your aid, but we're not going to form international ties and things like that. I just wanted to interject that because I've seen some stuff on the internet that people were scrutinizing this speech that he gave, and that's not what he's saying. So he continues on by saying, from across the earth, Americans are drawn to this place as though it were a part of our very soul. We come not only because of what they did here, we come because of who they were. They were young men with their entire lives before them. They were husbands who said goodbye to their young brides and took their duty as their fate. They were fathers who would never meet their infant sons and daughters because they had a job to do, and with God as their witness, they were going to get it done. They came wave after wave, without question, without hesitation, and without complaint. More powerful than the strength of American arms was the strength of American hearts. These men ran through the fires of hell, moved by a force no weapon could destroy. The fierce patriotism of a free, proud, and sovereign people. They battled not for control and domination, but for liberty, democracy, and self-rule. They pressed on for love and home and country. The main streets, the schoolyards, the churches, and neighbors and families and communities that gave us men such as these, they were sustained by the confidence that America can do anything. Because we are a noble nation and a virtuous people praying to a righteous God. The exceptional might came from a truly exceptional spirit. You realize we were fighting 2 campaigns in the Pacific and across the Atlantic. The abundance of, so think about the great nation America became at this point. We were great, but when wartime hits, Americans who seemingly can seem separated, when wartime hits, Americans come together. And in World War II, with God's help, we handled business, folks. The abundance of courage came from an abundance of faith, Donald Trump says. The great deeds of an army came from the great depths of their love as they confronted their fate. The Americans and the Allies placed themselves into the palm of God's hand. The men behind the veterans that are still alive, that are here today, they will tell you that they are just the lucky ones. As one of them recently put it, all the heroes are the men that are buried here. But we know what these men did. We know how brave they were. They came here and saved freedom. And then they went home, and then they showed us what freedom is all about. The American sons and daughters who saw us to victory were no less extraordinary in peaceful times. They built families. They built industries. They built a national culture that inspired the entire world in the decades that followed. America defeated communism, secured civil rights, revolutionized science, launched a man to the moon, and then kept on pushing to new frontiers. And today, America is stronger than ever before. 7 decades ago, the warriors of D-Day fought a sinister enemy who spoke of a 1,000-year empire. Now, if I get a chance before the end of the program, we might talk a little bit about that empire. But let me continue on because I want to get through this speech. In defeating that evil, they left a legacy. This was Adolf Hitler we're talking about. They left in defeating that evil, the evil of Adolf Hitler, they left a legacy that will last not only for 1,000 years, but for all time. For as long as the soul knows for duty and for honor, for as long as freedom keeps its hold on the human heart, to the men who sit behind me and to the boys who rest in the field before, your example will never, ever grow old. Your legend will never die. Your spirit, brave, unyielding, and true, will never die. The blood that they spilled, the tears they have shed, the lives that they gave, the sacrifice that they made, did not just win a battle. It did not just win a war. Those who fought here won a future for our nation. They won the survival of our civilization. And they showed us the way to love to cherish and to defend our way of life for many centuries to come. Today, as we stand together upon the sacred earth, we pledge that our nations, upon this sacred earth, we pledge that our nations will forever be strong and united. We will forever be together. Our people will forever be bold. Our hearts will forever be loyal. And our children and their children will forever and always be free. May God bless our great veterans. May God bless our allies. And may God bless the heroes of D-Day. And may God bless America. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was the speech of President Donald Trump this morning as he commemorated and honored the soldiers, both dead in the cemetery because many of their families are listening, and the soldiers that were still alive, the veterans still alive, sitting behind him, that they too gave their blood, sweat, and tears to win the battle that day and over the next several days, which was a major turning point in World War II, leading to eventually the winning of that part of the Atlantic campaign in Germany. And so I wanted to come to you today with the speech. Now, in the next segment, I'm going to get into some of the prophetic implications of World War II and what Normandy could have helped participate in, prophetically speaking. But I wanted to come to you today, and again, before this segment's over, I want to say thank you to the soldiers and to every soldier everywhere that fights for the freedom that we enjoy, the freedom of speech that Irvin, Baxter, and myself and others can get on radio programs and on YouTube and on the television and write articles and put out magazines and tell the truth. We see people that are fighting against those freedoms. But these men and women who have went to battle and fought for these freedoms, thank you so much. I honor you today for the things you've done to protect these freedoms, and I know that other Americans do as well. When we get back, let's talk about some of the prophetic implications of D-Day and the Battle of Normandy.
Many Christians admit end-time Bible prophecy is very complex and difficult to understand, and a little bit scary. But what if you could understand Bible prophecy? What if you could know what will happen and how the United States will play a key role during end-time events? When you call today and get Understanding the End Time DVD curriculum, you can have peace about what is to come while understanding the prophetic events that appear in our headlines every day. When you call or go online to endtime.com and order, you'll learn the answer to the biggest prophecy question of all. Will the rapture take place, and when will it happen? This 14-part DVD series is the definitive end-time prophecy Bible study available. And for this limited time, you can get it for just $149. Don't miss this special offer. Understanding the End Time. Call now, 1-800-363-8463. That's 1-800-END-TIME. Or go to endtime.com today.
Wow, what a speech by Donald Trump. I mean, one of the best, definitely, I'm going to say probably one of the best, definitely one of the best speeches I've ever heard Donald Trump give. And it would be right up there with some of the best speeches I've ever heard, honestly, because of the gravity of the situation behind the speech, what propelled him to say those things and how true they definitely were. I mean, if you've never been to war, you can never understand something like that. And for him to bring it out like that, wow, what a great speech. So thank you, President Trump. for an awesome speech this morning commemorating those that have given their lives. And for all of the soldiers, really. I mean, these guys, you know, they were men. I mean, let's just face it. These guys were not limp-wristed individuals that would just, you know, shun their responsibility. I mean, they just went back after it. Many of them, they got wounded, went into a hospital, got patched up, and went right back out there. And so they protected the freedoms that we enjoy today. I mean, without these people fighting for these freedoms on our soil and overseas, we would not have this way of life, everybody, and I hope everybody realizes that. So when we talk about, of course, this is End Time Ministries, we got to talk about some of the prophetic implications of this, kind of why I brought it up today, because World War II is definitely part of Bible prophecy. And the Bible says that God knows the end from the beginning. He's already seen all these things take place. Back when the book of Revelation was written 2,000 years ago by John on the Isle of Patmos, God had already looked out through time and He saw the invasion of Normandy. He saw the defeat of Hitler. He saw World War II. And so World War II is definitely part of Bible prophecy. World War II is part of this 7 trumpets. Okay, so let's describe this a little bit. Let's get into it, because for some of the new listeners, we're all the time going on new radio stations and our social media is expanding and we have people come in that are new. Many of you have heard us teach over the years of the 7 trumpets. Well, let's show how that's set up in the book of Revelation, where they're at, what's going on here. There are 3 groups of 7 found in the book of Revelation. The 7 seals, the 7 trumpets, and the 7 vials. And these 3 sets of 7, they make up the skeletal structure of the book of Revelation. Now, there are segments. Revelation chapter 1 is when you look at Revelation chapter 1:19, very key verse. It says, John, write the things which you have seen, the things which are, and the things which will be hereafter. Those are the 3 segments of the book of Revelation. Revelation 1, the vision John had seen. Revelation 2 and 3, letters written to 7 churches that were on the earth at the time of John. Revelation 4 through Revelation 22 is the prophetic segment. So that's the segmentation of the book of Revelation. But the structural element, 2 different things. The structural element is the 7 seals, the 7 trumpets, and the 7 vials. So the 7 seals are the long story ending at the Battle of Armageddon. There are at least 4 accounts of the second coming of Jesus Christ throughout the book of Revelation. The 7 seals end at the second coming of Jesus Christ, the Battle of Armageddon. The 7 trumpets are the shorter story that end at the second coming of Jesus Christ in the Battle of Armageddon. Then the 7 vials are the real short story ending at the second coming of Jesus Christ in the Battle of Armageddon. So those are the structural element. And then there's another account, Revelation 14, where it talks about the simultaneous harvest, where the angels go in and reap with the sickles and reap the vine of the earth and the harvest of the earth. So those are the structural elements, the skeletal structure. The 7 vials don't actually take place until after the mark of the beast. And we know that because the first vial, the 7 vials of the wrath of God, Revelation chapter 16, don't take place until after the Great Tribulation. We know this because when the first vial of the wrath of God is unleashed, the Bible says it will be unleashed upon the people that have taken the mark of the beast. And from this we know that it will all be enacted at the time of the very end, after the Great Tribulation. Now, not only are the skeletal structures of the book of Revelation of the seven seals, trumpets, and vials. The book of Revelation also has parenthetical chapters, a color commentary. And I'm going through all this real quick because I want to get to the World War II. In addition to the main overview of Revelation, sometimes there are additional chapters included. But I want you to understand the structural elements here. Chapter 12 tells about what a war in heaven when Satan cast down, confined to the earth for the final 3.5 years. Revelation 13 gives a view of the one world government and the Antichrist. The reason I'm doing this is because there are people that teach the seals, trumpets, and vials all happen during the final 7 years. That's simply not the case. And because I have to show you that when I say the second trumpet is the World War II, if you believe they all happened during the final 7 years, then you would say, no, that's not the case. So that's why I'm giving you this structural element here. So Revelation 13 gives a parenthetical chapter. It gives a one world government view of the Antichrist, the one world religion, and the false prophet who's going to be the leader of that one world religion, and also the mark of the beast and the economic system of the end time world government. So under the skeletal structure, Revelation and the other chapters are included, give a fuller understanding, and it'll help us better understand Revelation as a whole. Now, focusing right on the seven trumpets start in Revelation chapter 8, verse 6. And they go through Revelation 11:19. And you say, well, hold on a minute, Dave. In Revelation 10, the seven thunders are mentioned. Well, the Bible doesn't tell us what they are. At this point, we don't know. It may be that we don't ever know until we're given our glorified body. At this point, we do not know. We've studied it, simply don't know. But their Revelation, the seven trumpets starts in Revelation 8 and ends in Revelation 11:19 after the seventh trump, when the second coming of Jesus Christ occurs. This is the last trump and the Battle of Armageddon. So that spans those chapters. But we know, and there's no way I have time left on the rest of the program to go through all of the proofs. But we know that the first trumpet is World War I. The second trumpet, World War II. And of course, again, the turning of the tide in one of the main turning points in World War II was the invasion of Normandy, D-Day, 75 years ago today. It gives you a kind of a timeline to follow here because the prophecy was given 2,000 years ago. And World War II ended 1945. It ended on two fronts, just in a couple years there. With Hitler being defeated and with Japan, right there in 1945. So I just told you that they start when they some of the guys that went in and participated in the Normandy invasion. They went in and liberated some of the concentration camps, 1945. And then, so the second trumpet, 1938 to 1945. So when God was giving John this vision, he was telling them about a third of the ships that participated in World War II being destroyed, about the mountain that burned with fire, and, it was like the bombs of Hiroshima, Nagasaki. That was the second trumpet. And you can't figure that out if you don't understand the structural elements of the book of Revelation and how they began long before. These have already occurred. The first 5 trumpets have already occurred. The first 4 seals have already been opened, and those spirits have been let loose. And so today, a 75-year anniversary of the invasion, and a 74-year anniversary, roughly, of the end of World War II. And then, of course, the third trumpet, the Chernobyl nuclear accident. The fourth trumpet, the beginning of the process of globalization, moving on. With the tearing down of the Berlin Wall. The fifth trumpet, the Iraq War with Saddam Hussein. the sixth trumpet, World War III, and then the seventh trumpet, second coming of Jesus Christ, the Battle of Armageddon. And so in Revelation 8 through 9, it's where the second trumpet is found. And it says, and the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and a third part of the sea became blood, third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Well, World War II is the greatest disaster the world has ever seen. Now, it's not the greatest disaster the world will ever see, but up to this point, it is. 52 million people were killed. And in light of what the prophecy revealed, you know, in trying to figure all this out, years ago, Irvin Baxter, he was wondering how many ships participated in World War II and how many ships sank. The Bible says a third of the ships sunk. Well, many of you have heard the story where he sent his research assistant to research the information at the library. And when she comes back, she said 105,127 ships participated in World War II, and 36,387 ships sank. Well, you know, that's remarkably close to 1/3. And then the rest of the prophecy says in Revelation 8 through 9, that there would be a great mountain burning with fire cast into the seas. Well, of course, we've all seen pictures of the nuclear explosions of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They look just like a mountain burning with fire. And the events of World War II, and imagine John was describing something he had never seen. Something that he had never seen a nuclear bomb go off. So when he was describing this prophecy, he said, it looked like a mountain burning with fire. Well, look at some of the pictures, color. If you can find them where somebody's added color to them, they look just like a mountain burning with fire. And if you understand when an atomic bomb goes off and what happens there, a nuclear bomb is the hottest thing we can get on Earth, close to the temperature of the sun. So the events of World War II were so catastrophic, it isn't far-fetched to believe the Bible would prophesy about them. Nuclear explosion, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and a third of the ships that participated, it really makes it pretty obvious that the second trumpet prophecy was World War II. And so, there you go. On the Pacific front, that was Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Normandy was the turning point on the Atlantic front. So again, before I end the program, I want to say today, thank you, every soldier out there that's fighting for the freedom of the United States. You're standing on the shoulders of them that went into Normandy on D-Day.
This has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of Endtime Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with Endtime Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page.